Greetings, hello. Here I am again, out for a walk and talk. Welcome to the front row seat. I'm sitting here having to think about it and walking. I was having some some me moments as I was thinking about my day and where my awareness was focused at, and being mindful of, well, where my attention's going. I think that the concept that I have been working on about it's all fake and everything I'm doing in my mind is these IP addresses that I make up, and it's just information there. So I was thinking about the Christmas IP address. Of course, it's coming up. There's 2 weeks away. And so as it started coming up, maybe too muddy back here. Let me see. Oh yeah, too muddy for today. I'll just get bogged down in the mud that way. So I was going through my day and thinking about Christmas, and at the IP address, everything's there. I was just looking through it and seeing what I have there, and has some wonky places in it. Has all the family things. All of it's there on this one place. And I thought, wow, that's probably one of the reasons Christmas is so challenging. Not just, in the busyness of it and all of that. It's got all this other stuff in it too. About family and who's doing what and where we're going. And I think this year everyone's decided to go out of town. Good idea. Anyway, I was talking to my mother, and I think I mentioned this before, but I wanted to mention it again because it has to do with the storyline, this narrative. And getting out of these narratives, it takes a little work, I tell you. You find yourself in one of these IPs, and next thing you know, you're off on a story. And I think that's kind of what they are. They're kind of like storylines, narratives. The story you tell yourself, the story you hear from others, story you read about. That's all it is. It's just stories. We're just a mind full of stories, I think. And so I was thinking about the Christmas mind, and then all of a sudden I had this thing pop into my mind, and it was something my mother had said a couple weeks ago, and my mind just would not let go of it. It resonated somewhere at deeper levels, I guess. And I said, hey Mom, do you remember, back when you were a little girl, do you remember, any of the other stories, or tell me about what that was like? And she told me a lot of things. One of them was they didn't eat vegetables. They lived on dairy. A lot of people did, from where my mother was from. She said it was too hard to do gardening work because they had so much else to do, and they didn't plant gardens. They had eggs, they had chickens, and she was, grew up on a farm. So And the diet that they were eating, they all lived very long, very old. 80, 90 years old in my family. Which I know it's not 100 years, but still pretty long. So then she said this last thing to me about, well, here in New Mexico, where they all live, where my mother's side of the family's from, she said, yeah, she said it was really sad. I said, what happened? She said, well, they were taking the babies away from the mothers. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, she said it was everybody. She said they were taking the babies away from the mothers, and I said, well, that's what they do now, isn't it? I mean, when you go have a baby at a hospital. She said, no, they would take the babies away, and they would take them to places, and then they'd bring them back. And what she was talking about is she had witnessed, some of the things that was going on back in the day with the Indian people that lived near where my family lived, and they all knew each other. They all got along. They all loved each other. So they weren't separated. They they were part of my mom's family and my family them, and they all were there together. So anything that happened to anybody, everybody knew about it, And so I was thinking about being separated, and this whole Christmas vibe. To me, it's just a one big vibe. And a lot of people have a lot of fun. The kids have fun. A lot of the adults are working hard to make things happen. And I just had this insight, and it was about what my mother said. So I looked into when it started in my culture where the babies were separated from the mothers. And it didn't really start until the mother started going to the hospital to have babies, because back in my grandmother's, they were all born at home, and they were all born a certain way. The midwives would come, and that's how they had their babies. They didn't go anywhere. So when you go to the hospital, the first thing they do, the mother has the baby, and then the baby is taken away and put into a nursery in its own, little bassinet thing. Well, it turns out that first hour is when the human mind makes its first pattern recognition for 2 hummingbirds. So it makes its first pattern recognition for bonding and connection with others. So that means that those people who are separated, it's kind of the same as people who are adopted, have these same issues. They'll have difficulty for the rest of their life connecting and making bonds to anybody. So now you've got mothers and children going home from hospitals who aren't bonded. They're two separate things, and the mother has a hard time accepting it, and the infant's not giving the mother the cues, and that could turn into quite the disaster, which I think it did for a lot of people, in that their ability to make bonds and connect with other people was damaged there inadvertently being separated, after being born in the hospital. Because these days it's different. I went to the hospital with my last little great nephew. He was born. He stayed in the same room as his mother. He didn't go anywhere. She held him the first hour of his life. And then I got to see him and I got to hold him, and he was just like 10 hours old. And it facilitates bonding and connection and all those things. And this is he's one of the happiest little boys I've ever seen. He never cried. He was just completely different. We was at a family get together and my mother goes, does he ever get upset? And his mom says, no, not really. He doesn't get upset. He'll just kind of wiggle when he's wet, and then you kind of know. And it was just a whole different thing. So then I looked more into attachment and bonding. And when you look into it, and people who can't attach and connect to other people, because that's, we're like a communal species where we bond and connect. That's what we do as human beings. So when I looked at the attachment bonding issue, I had another insight of, wait, this is where materialism is probably coming from. What if everyone's trying to fill these voids within ourselves because of lack of connection and bonding? We've never had it, so don't really know what it is. I have, because I worked on it a little bit, but I didn't know I was. So I went back and looked at, when was this big rise in, consumerism and materialism? When did that kind of take off? Because my mother told me other stories, like we didn't go to the store and buy things unless we needed something. They didn't go just get things. They got, like, if they needed shoes, they bought shoes. If they needed, clothes, they bought clothes. They never went shopping with the idea in their head of, I'm just going to go look and see if I find something I want. That's not how it worked. So there was a big change there, and it all happened at the same time. It was really interesting how it all coincided at the same time. It's the same story. It's almost like it was a nexus point, and everything, almost everything stems from that point in time when life just got kind of matrixy for everybody. It all kind of stems from that one point when the mothers and the children were separated. Because when you have those connections, those bondings, you don't have this like feeling that you need something. Because when you don't have it, there's this underlying current of something's missing. Because we are hardwired to have that. So the hardwiring is still there, but it's just not happening because that initial, first bond was not made. Everything stays there. So you feel this, this internal void. You don't feel whole as a person. So it explains why, there's drug issues. It explains why there's, why people are just trying to numb this feeling, because it doesn't feel good. This feeling of separation, it just doesn't feel normal. Doesn't feel, well, not normal, that's not a good word. It's just like an overall sense of something's not right. Because it's not. So, after hanging out at this IP for a little while, I thought, maybe there's a solution. Maybe there's some really nice information about it and a way forward. And understanding what caused some of the things in your life that you didn't understand. For me, it was a lot. So I went and looked at attachment disorders, and then I found a whole giant section on attachment styles. So all the information was there. It was about attachment styles and bonding, and if you weren't bonded to your parents, or how you were bonded to them, and a traumatic bond or whatever, it was all there. But then there were steps to help step you out of that and help you move forward to make connection with others and overcoming fear of it and all of that, which that's what I've been doing the last 10 years, is working through a lot of that stuff. But I didn't know that's what I was working through. But when I look back from my early days, no, I wasn't connected to anybody. I wasn't bonded to my mother. I did have a bond with my father, but it wasn't it wasn't like it would be a normal bond. He was just, my favorite parent, I guess, put it that way. But he was nice, so there was that. And I realized that, wow, that's what I've been trying to heal. I've been trying to heal this bonding problem, because I was, of course, taken to a nursery too. And it just, I could see everywhere where it was causing me to be pulled back into the matrix. It's almost like it's a matrix thing where it pulls you back in. Then you want to do something that helps you feel better, so you do this and you try that and you do this, and you really just end up feeding this system, that just keeps getting bigger. And I wanted to get away from the matrix and into my own world of thinking for myself, and I've worked really hard to learn how to do that, and I'm still working on it. I'm not all the way there. And another thing, this thing would do is make you extremely susceptible to cults and cult mentalities. Because you're still looking for someone greater and bigger and magical than you, which to an infant, that would be its mother. You're still looking for this thing to come in and save your world, right? And it never happened. So to a group or anything like that, it can feel like it's a temporary fix for this bigger issue. And so there you are, being pulled this way and that way by different groups and different thoughts and within those groups. And next thing you know, you can't think for yourself again. So as I'm looping through this, looping, I've always been looking for the exit door, like the Truman Show, I know there's one. I just, I know that there's a way out. You just have to keep working on it. And I think that I may have found it, because this one thing I have found, this one IP address, holds the keys to all the other ones that bind you within it. And when this kind of, can be addressed and healed as I did within myself, then I could address some of the other things. And all of it just goes right back to that one point. And as I've been healing this and taking back my own personal energy and being really careful about where I let my focus and attention go, and instead of focusing and having my attention on all of these things trying to fill this void within myself, I can take that and put it on something else, like how beautiful the sky is, and how it's really pretty with the moon above that tree over there, and other things besides what the mainstream or the matrix is up to. And I'm getting to where it's just falling away, and I just kind of feel connected to something bigger than myself, my surroundings around me, and that I belong. That's another thing you don't feel. Oh, this is down a lot lower. See? I ran into it because it was up above where I could see. You could see it on here, but so don't have to hit myself on that. Oh, thank you. So I was really thinking about how understanding this last little piece of it, or it's probably not the last piece, I'm sure there's more, but in understanding this piece of it, of how this separation thing can cause all of these other things to happen, and then you don't even know what caused it, or that there's even something that's amiss. Well, you were well taken care of, and I survived, whatever. Yeah. But just like you can see the forest around everywhere. You can't see the energy, though, that's behind all of this. So, just like you can't see the energy here, you can't see the energy behind what's going on right after we're born. I know I was in the room when the baby was born, and you can feel that. It's real intense energy. And I don't know if it was the parents or what it could have been. I don't know. So it seems that those that were born during those times may need to go look at attachment and bonding and see if you got any stuff there, because that's going to change your life and your viewpoint upon it. What is this place doing? What, still don't know that. I know more about it, but I think I'm getting to a place where it's really important of being an individual and separating from, anything that's kind of matrixy and disturbing and all of that, and connect with things like what's out here and what's within. I just thought that was really interesting, and I just wanted to share. So, everybody have happy holidays. And I know one thing, before I go be around, that's what I wanted to say too. Before I go be around, the holiday crew, I'm going to just brush up on my, attachment and what's going on there. Because there's one thing that I did notice that was happening is there's always a few family members in there. They They connect and they bond really well. And you can see it, you know. They laugh with each other and they have fun. And you can tell they're just enjoying spending time together. Well, all the other members don't have that same relationship. And it can really cause some discord because all we all really want is connection. Because we don't have it. And without it, we're just trapped in the matrix. So, happy holidays, and everybody enjoy and see what's at your Christmas IP address and see what you find there. Goodbye.